Welcome to today's podcast, Pro Bono Profiles, where we get in conversation with Pro Bono's panel lawyers for insights on pro bono lawyering and their motivations to incorporate pro bono work in their practice, cutting across geographical and subject matter jurisdictions. We have Advocate Rohan Kothari, Pro Bono's panel lawyer from Bangalore, joining us today to talk about his experience of representing child victims of sexual violence in Bangalore child courts. I'm Madhulika T, a program officer at Pro Bono, and I will walk you through this conversation. Thanks, Rohan, for doing this interview with us. Let us start by talking about what motivates you to engage with pro bono work and how do you manage this work alongside your busy regular practice?
Need to have very helpful colleagues to keep everything running, and people who are passionate about the work you're doing. I don't think anybody does pro bono work without having an innate like for it. There are a few who may be doing it for the exposure it gives them, but I don't think that sort of an interest lasts very long. But yeah, so you just need to have inclination to do it, to want to do it for the sake of doing it rather than for any ulterior or connected outcome. And it helps when you have clients who are so appreciative of your work. So if you do one case well or one part of one case well and you get the recognition from your client for that, you're egged on and encouraged to continue. POXO cases like when we're dealing with clients who are from more vulnerable economically and otherwise vulnerable sections of society, to have any form of interaction with them is always rewarding because in most situations they're dealing with people who just don't listen. That we're able to have the time to listen to them and listen to them with some level of conscientiousness is itself appreciated by them. For us, that's good enough to start off with.
That's great and very inspiring. So, thank you so much for that. Let's now get into your specific body of work. And I would like to begin with the very important case of BB Aisha versus Union of India. You had steered this particular case towards winning children the right to be heard in POXO cases across Karnataka. So, how do you see the High Court or the POXO courts as an arena for expanding the rights of vulnerable groups like children, as you did with BB Aisha?
Well, I wouldn't characterize it as an expansion of rights. I would characterize it more as a uniform and consistent recognition of already existing rights. And for those that don't have the factual context, BB Aisha is the lead petitioner we represented before the Karnataka High Court in a PIL where we asked the High Court to allow victims and the families of victims to be heard before individuals who had been accused of offenses under the POXO Act were granted bail. Thankfully, we had a very sympathetic and aware bench that heard us, that passed an order on the date of admission, basically allowing our petition. And since that day, it's become a matter of law for every trial court and high court judge to compulsorily issue notice to the complainant or the complainant's guardian when hearing an application for bail or anticipatory bail under the POXO Act. So we know for a fact that when we go to court, we will be heard, and we're putting our opponents, whether they be lawyers appearing for the accused or other parties, we're putting the public prosecutor and we're putting the judges to notice that there's going to be a substantive voice on behalf of the victim that you're going to have to hear.
So the other question I wanted to ask you is that you've represented, I think, over six to seven children before the POXO courts. So in your experience of having dealt with these cases, what do you feel are the immediate challenges children are facing with right to access to their justice before the Bangalore special courts? And what changes would you like to see implemented immediately to make the courts more child-friendly?
Challenges that they are facing immediately, one is a dearth of well-trained, knowledgeable, and sensitized participants and personnel. We seldom come across a trial court judge or a public prosecutor that is completely and fully familiar with the legislation that they're dealing with. The second is I guess with law enforcement, again, there must be more sensitivity training and just more female officers. Not that being male is in any way going to be on its own not helpful, but a level of sensitivity training, which I'm sure is being provided, but would be provided in a better format, would be useful. The third would obviously be getting judges and public prosecutors to accept more consistently the role of the counsel for the um, complainant and the victim. It's taken me now over 6 to 8 cases and a couple of years of complete trials to reach a level of recognition in the POCSO special courts that, oh, if he's here for the victim. We'll have to give him some latitude. But it's taken that long in that many cases. It should not have to. It should ideally be something that is welcomed by the court.
It was right after the child's evidence. The child came to me and shared that initially she was very scared and the defense advocate seemed like a tiger. But when Rohan Bhaiya came into court, he turned into a cat. Having someone say that about your advocacy in court must be a very gratifying experience. I wanted to ask you if you have any other such experiences or stories to share from your pro bono engagement with child survivors of sexual abuse that motivates you to engage more with pro bono work.
To know that we are able to provide relief to someone who have very few other options to turn to, or in most cases no other option to turn to, and that they've come to us and we're able to give them the relief that they were looking for. That's very gratifying. As far as other stories or other similar anecdotes go, one which is very relevant and recent is where we had a very um, strong case on facts of a father abusing his daughter. And we had what I consider to be one of the most difficult public prosecutors that I've dealt with, and an equally inscrutable judge who made it quite evident that they were not very keen on having me come to court, make submissions in court, file pleadings, all of those things. But then at the end of that trial, we came out with a judgment where a conviction of 20 years was awarded. And the judgment read with a good amount of insertions of my pleadings. So even though she may not have liked our presence, our physical presence in court, I think our written advocacy made some sort of an impact.
Thanks, Rohan. What is your advice to younger lawyers who want to do pro bono work?
Not to think of it as pro bono work at all, just to think of it as work that's going to pay you richly in good karma, also recognition through courts, because as much as we don't think it happens, that courts and judges, when they see you doing well for a client that is quite obvious is a pro bono client, will find that sort of conduct appreciative.
Thank you, Rohan, for taking the time out to talk with us so candidly about the wonderful work that you do. We hope that this conversation is able to inspire and provide valuable insights to lawyers who wish to incorporate more pro bono work in their practice, as well as those who wish to provide effective legal representation to children in vulnerable situations. Join us on the next episode for insights from Faraz Maqbool, an advocate from iPro Bono's criminal law panel from Delhi. See you next time.